English 1A, Reading and Composition. Today's lecture is on citing sources, avoiding plagiarism. Your research paper is a collaboration between you and your sources. To be fair and ethical, you must acknowledge your debt to the writers of those sources. If you do not, you commit plagiarism, a serious academic offense. In general, these three acts are considered plagiarism. 1. Failing to cite quotations and borrowed ideas. 2. Failing to enclose borrowed language in quotation marks. And 3. Failing to put summaries and paraphrases in your own words. Definitions of plagiarism may vary. It's a good idea to find out how your school defines academic dishonesty. Cite quotations and borrowed ideas. Sources are cited for two reasons. 1. To tell readers where your information comes from so that they can assess its reliability and, if interested, find and read the original source. 2. To give credit to the writers from whom you have borrowed words and ideas. You must cite anything you borrow from a source, including direct quotations, statistics, and other specific facts, visuals such as cartoons, graphs, and diagrams, and any ideas you present in a summary or paraphrase. The only exception is common knowledge, information your readers could easily find in any number of general sources. For example, most encyclopedias will tell readers that Alfred Hitchcock directed Notorious in 1946 and that Emily Dickinson published only a handful of her many poems during her lifetime. As a rule, when you have seen information repeatedly in your reading, you don't need to cite it. However, when information has appeared in only one or two sources, when it is highly specific, as with the statistics, or when it is controversial, you should cite the source. If a topic is new to you and you are not sure what is considered common knowledge or what is controversial, ask your instructor or someone else with expertise. When in doubt, cite the source. The Modern Language Association recommends a system of in-text citation. Here briefly is how the MLA citation system usually works. The source is introduced by a single phrase that names its author. The material being cited is followed by a page number in parentheses. At the end of the page, a list of work cited, arranged alphabetically by author's last name, gives complete publication information about the source. Used thoughtfully, the source materials you have gathered will make your argument more complex and convincing for readers. Sources can play several different roles as you develop your points. An example of in-text citation. Legal scholar J. Keeson points out that the law holds employers liable for employees' actions such as violations of copyright law, the distribution of offensive or graphic sexual material, and illegal disclosure of confidential information. And then the page number is in parentheses 312. Entry in the list of works cited. Keeson, J.P., Cyberworking or Cybershrinking, a first principle examination of electronic privacy in the workplace. Florida Law Review 54.2, 2002, 289 to 332, print. Enclose borrowed language in quotation marks. To indicate that you are using a source's exact phrases or sentences, you must enclose them in quotation marks unless they have been set off from the text by indenting. To omit the quotation marks is to claim falsely that the language is your own. Such an omission is plagiarism even if you have cited the source. Original source. Without adequate discipline, The World Wide Web can be a tremendous time sink. No other medium comes close to matching the internet's depth of materials, interactivity, and sheer distractive potential. Frederick Lane, The Naked Employee, page 142. Plagiarism. Frederick Lane points out that if people do not have adequate discipline, the World Wide Web can be a tremendous time sink. No other medium comes close to matching the internet's depth of material, interactivity, and sheer distracted potential. 142. Borrowed language and quotation marks. Frederick Lane points out that for those not exercising self-control, the World Wide Web can be a tremendous time sink. No other medium comes close to matching the internet's depth of material, interactivity, and shared distracted potential. 142. Put summaries and paraphrases in your own words. A summary condenses information from a source. A paraphrase conveys the information using roughly the same number of words as the original source. When you summarize or paraphrase, it is not enough to name the source. You must restate the source's meaning using your own language. You commit plagiarism if you have copied the author's sentences, either by mixing the author's phrases with your own without using quotation marks, or by plugging your synonyms into the author's sentence structure. The first paraphrase of the following source is plagiarized, even though the source is cited because too much of its language is borrowed from the original. The underlying strings of words have been copied exactly without quotation marks. In addition, the writer has closely echoed the sentence structure of the source, merely substituting some synonyms: restricted from limited, modern era for computer age, monitoring for surveillance, and inexpensive for cheap. I will pause a moment so you can review the original source and the plagiarism unacceptable borrowing. You should be able to compare the differences. To avoid plagiarizing an author's language, resist the temptation to look at the source while you are summarizing or paraphrasing. After you have read the original passage, set the source aside. Ask yourself, what is the author's meaning? In your own words, state the author's basic point. Return to the source and check that you haven't used the author's language or sentence structure, or misrepresented the author's ideas. When you fully understand another writer's meaning, you can more easily and accurately present those ideas in your own words. Finally, here's an acceptable paraphrase. Just take a moment and read this. Notice that the author gives credit to the source and names the page number in the end. This concludes citing sources, avoiding plagiarism. See you next time.